Hey there, Porsche Files. Welcome to BreitWerks. What are we doing? Well, you saw the suspension removal video. Now we've got everything back from powder coat. We've got some parts, got our new torsion bars. You saw the old ones were all kinds of rusty and crusty. And we're gonna get on to putting it back together. So we installed the old gland nut because of the way that the whole powder coating process works. What I'll do is I'll just take that out and we'll use the new Coney gland nut. And I'll show you how to do that. And we've got our hydraulic fluid, 50 milliliters. And I don't know if anybody can read hieroglyphics, but one of the other reasons I'm not a fan of Coney's is the instructions that they come with. I mean, yeah, if you can read that, God bless you. They do have at least a torque value on there somewhere, and they tell you how much fluid to put in. But other than that, that's why the internet's great, and having the old manuals and stuff is good. But didn't realize the torsion bars were going to be as bad as they were, so I had to order them. And 99% of the time I order my suspension stuff from Elephant, but they usually have all upgrade stuff. And on this car, we wanted to stay stock. So we went with the 19 millimeter sway away, which matches the Porsche torsion bar spring rates perfectly. But Pelican, half the time I can't get stuff from them in a reasonable amount of time. This time they send it AOG. So yes, maybe they saw my Instagram post where I have low flying aircraft, but yeah, we're gonna have some fun with this. So I'll kind of show you the process as we go along. We've already got one spindle built out and installed in the car with the axle carrier and one of the A-arms. So now we got to go through that process of the ugly process of making the bushings all fit onto the A-arms before we can install them. So I'll show you guys a little bit of that. All right, we're gonna get on with it. All right, so a couple things here. We got this A-arm together, so it's ready to go back into the car. Before anybody gets too excited, all the spots where the powder coat was masked off, all those spots, I hit them with a little bit of a clear coat, ceramic-based clear coat. So even though it's bare metal, it's protected, it won't rust. The other thing, for getting these bushes in this, if you're doing this yourself, the little tool is not cheap, but it is amazing, right? So this guy fits over the end, and then you press your bush on using this guy, and then everything squeezes together. So this is an Elephant racing tool, fantastic tool. And yeah, I've done them where I just tried to do them by hand. Make sure you use some kind of a lubricant. I like to use either soap, dish soap, and then it'll dry. So first time it gets wet, it gets cleaned off. Or you can use something along the lines of like a Sil Glide. We use Space Shuttle Molly Coat. But so this A-arm is ready to get back reinstalled. And then once we have it hung in the car, we'll put this sway bar in. And on these sway bars, you have markings. When Sway Away sends these, they protect the ends of them. Do a pretty good job of it. But it'll say either L or R. This one says L, and you want the L facing you as you install it from the back of the car. All right, so basically this guy's gonna be driving in that direction. But before we put him in, we'll actually put a heavy coat of grease over the entire bar, not just the ends, but the entire bar gets greased up. That way it slows down any corrosion. I mean, Sway Away does a great job with these coatings, but even they recommend in their formal instructions, put a coat of grease over the bar. And that'll also help prevent what happened to the original bars, which is the reason we had to put these new bars in. All right, so we're gonna get on with that. I'm gonna go hang that A-arm and get that torsion bar put in, and then we'll come back here and we will put the strut inside the spindle. So we're gonna get on with it. Okay, we're gonna use the chair method because filming with over in the vise area is a little hard. So we're gonna do this here, but first I wanted to show you, this is the original shock strut. So it actually would exchange fluid with what was in the shock body. And Koni changed up their strategy to this thing is fully encapsulated. So it lives inside of itself, because these guys the seals would foul and you would get leaking down the shock body or the strut body. Way back when, Koni would rebuild these. And unfortunately, no longer do they do that. There were about 1 million different little seals to make sure everything stayed inside. So we're going with this Koni. And for those of you that have heard the rumor that Konis have a lifetime warranty, they do on new purchased parts, but not on what came in the car. They used to offer a rebuild service, but not anymore. So this is the new option. So when we had this guy powder coated, this is our spindle. We had him powder coated, left the gland nut on to protect the threads. So now we're gonna take that gland nut out, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna set this guy on a chair. And this will work just fine for us. It's not exactly the most professional way, but hey, we're trying to make a video here for YouTube, right? Now, in the Koni instructions, they say 50 milliliters. You can use antifreeze. I don't like to use anything that's, water-based. So we're going to use power steering oil and 50 milliliters. So I've got my little graduated-ish cylinder here. There's my 50 milliliters. And then we're just going to pour that right into the spindle. So what that does is it actually helps to get the heat out of the shock and transfer it into the strut body. So now we take our strut and we set it down in there. Don't go too fast, because you will blow fluid up and make a complete and total mess. But set it down, push it into the fluid, and then I like to just pull it back out, because I pressed their 50 milliliters, but we want to see this about halfway up, which is right where we are. So we've got our fluid in there. And then this entire bag of stuff that Koni sends with the struts, we're not going to use any of that stuff. We'll use the top nut, and we will use this little safety washer to peen over. But other than that, we're going to use all of our original parts. But the first thing we need to do is we got to install our gland nut. So some people have said they've had problems with these coming loose. I haven't seen it, but we'll make sure that we get her tightened down. If we can get the shock centered so that we can get our threads started. There we go. And it's a little easier to do your final tightening in a vise. But when I go do that, I'll show you a couple things first. So with these struts, they don't want a vacuum to be created under the outside cover. So they give you this really sweet plastic, and it used to be that you would have to pay so much attention and you'd have to figure out, hey, which side has the edges on it. Now they make it idiot proof, right? Both sides, doesn't matter which one's up, which one's down. So then that'll go over the gland nut. And then we take our bump stop. You want to have the bump stop. The round portion of the bump stop goes down, and that usually takes a little manipulating over the shaft to get it to sit all the way down. Okay, and then we put a cover on, and bam, we are ready to go install this guy in the car. So before I get this guy installed in the car, I am going to tighten up that gland nut, but I won't make y'all suffer through that. But we're going to use, instead of all this fancy stuff that they send in the bag, we've got new upper strut mounts, and we're going to reuse the original top washer. So it'll sit in here, it'll lock down just like that. Then we'll throw this safety washer on there, and then that'll go down in there. Oh, I'm not going to put it on right now because I don't want to have to take it back off. And then we just put the nut on top of it. And then the way that these guys are adjustable, so if we push this all the way down, right, this washer's keyed. So the washer's keyed so I can turn the shock shaft. And if I turn the shock shaft all the way to the left, that is going to be our loosest setting. Let's see. Nope, I didn't have it all the way down, that's why. All right, so let's do it without the cover. So make life a little bit easier. But we got this guy pushed all the way down, and it'll engage at the bottom, and you can feel it, like right there I can feel it. So I turn it all the way to the left, and you should have 720 degrees, 2 full rotations. So it should come to a stop here. And then come all the way back and find the other side where it stops. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these guys right to the middle, right? So we're not going to go super hard on it, but I'm watching my notch here, and they're 360 degrees. So it's dead in the middle, which is a pretty happy place for the way that we have this car set up. We don't have any crazy torsion bars or anything in there. So that's going to be perfect. All right, we're going to go tighten down that gland nut and get this guy inserted up into the strut mount. And we'll show you that once we get there. All right, we got the spindle hung, but I wanted to just take a second and show you guys the #1 mistake that's made. So brand new ball joint. What you'll notice is the ball joint has a notch on it. So does the A-arm. So the ball joint has to fit down flush so that it locks into that notch, right? So that is, a lot of times these cars will come in, somebody will be like, oh, I just had the ball joints replaced, but now the car's sitting weird. Well, that's because you've got this gap in here that's not supposed to be there, right? This needs to sit down flush in the A-arm. And I'm not sure, I mean, this is like 125 foot-pound torque that you put on this thing. So I don't know how they kept it from spinning. So, but let's show you the other side, which has already been assembled. But you can see here, whoops, you can't see because of the sun, but you can see here, there's no gap whatsoever, right? So no gap, and then this special nut that goes on the bottom there gets torqued down. So yeah, this side coming out pretty well. And so we're gonna go get the other side A-arm installed, get the ball joint up in the spindle, and then we'll keep on rocking. If you saw our removal video, you saw how much trouble we had with a couple of the different spots where you had to take things out. So I just wanted to show you guys, I use 2 different types of antiseize. So this is what Porsche used. If you take apart an original, if you take apart a front end of a 911 that hasn't been touched by somebody else, it will have gobs of copper antiseize, right? That's what Porsche used on all of the mounting bolts and everything like that. So no problem, copper's good, good stuff. On the, oops, let's throw that on the ground, but on the tie rod end and on the ball joint, because they are such a gigantic pain in the butt, I use this Moly Lube, and this is the same stuff that Porsche recommends for the center lock nuts or wheel nuts on the GT cars. So this stuff is nickel based. So without getting too far into the chemistry, you can never go wrong with nickel. Copper is not good if you're trying to put steel with aluminum, but nickel is pretty good. It's very, very expensive, right? Like this gigantic jar that'll last you almost a lifetime, probably this little tube is 3 or 4 times as expensive as that. So we kind of use this stuff sparingly, only on the really key spots that we have to use it. But it's fantastic as an antiseize. So for your tie rod end and for your ball joint, because hey, if you ever have to take it back apart, that's going to make it a little bit easier to get it back apart. Copper stuff is good. A lot of people like the silver Permatex, the stuff that gets everywhere. But when you really start to get into the chemistry, I think that stuff is made with aluminum paste, copper paste, and nickel paste. And I think the only thing that's better than this nickel paste is the nuclear grade stuff, which I think it has nickel in it, and I forget what the other precious metal is. But can't really go wrong with this stuff. If you can get a good price on it, good for you. Otherwise, it is pretty pricey when you go out there to look at it. But definitely will make the removal job easier if you ever have to take anything apart. All right, so one of the biggest thing people forget to do is this little foam piece. So I just get them from Porsche. Different companies sell different style things, but this foam piece needs to go over the torsion bar, and then it gets squeezed in there. And what that's doing is it's keeping out all of the potential corrosion. All right, so you can see it installed on this side. The cap, the adjusting cap, actually squeezes it down, and it's all based on, you know, where your adjusting screw is. Right, so this cap will actually go in and out. The torsion bar kind of sits where it sits, and then this cap does your final location. But the reason you need the foam is it's not always in the exact same spot. So once those foam pieces perish, that's when you can get crap inside of there and your torsion bars start to go. And I think if I remember correctly, I might have this backwards, so y'all are gonna have to check yourself, but what you do is you pull down as far as you can on the control arm, and then you put the arm in, the adjusting arm in, as high up as possible. Right, so that'll get you to a ride height that now you can just use the adjuster to fix it. I might have that backwards, but the reality is when you reinstall these things, you're gonna put it on the ground, you're gonna be like, oh, I need to make an adjustment. I need to go a tooth this way or a tooth that way. But if you get lucky, good on you, go buy a lottery ticket. All right, we're gonna keep going. Just wanted to make sure, check out those. These are always perished, so when you buy your torsion bars, just buy a pair. I always try to keep a couple of those in the shop because no doubt about it, when you take them out, they just crumble and fall apart. All right, we're gonna keep going and we'll get back to you. All right, we got all the under car stuff done. So we got our bolts all torqued, front A-arm, rear A-arm. We got our adjusters in a place where we think they're close. We got, these were, I think previously in the video I said 150, no, 185 foot-pounds, torquing that little castellated nut. So that's a healthy deal. And then don't forget to put these guys back in, or you'll have a steering rack wiggling around. You won't understand why. So we are going to go ahead now and start building out the hubs and putting the brakes back on. But everything under here just looks fantastical. So not only does it look fantastical, it is going to work amazing. So those sway away bars and those Coney struts are going to be unbeatable. So yeah, good stuff. All right, folks, there you have it. Got our brakes back on. We've got our suspension all buttoned up. Everything is bomb-proof. So this guy is gonna have to finish up. We're gonna finish up this video before we put the sway bar back in, because getting those little rubber bushings, which used to take half a day, those are gonna take a while. So it's getting harder to find parts for these old cars. Yeah, but everybody already knows that. So yes, we are all done with the major big parts, and we're gonna have to get her aligned. So stay tuned, because I woke up in the middle of the night the other day going, hey, there must have been a reason they cut this. I'm wondering if they couldn't get enough camber out of it. But we will know once we get it on the alignment rack and see what's up. So thanks for watching. Check us out at BreitWerks.com and have a fantastic day.